So good to see you, so good to be together here and online. If you would rise as you are able in body or spirit. Number 38 in our hymnal. I'm sure you already recognize this. All of you Cat Stevens fans and you Brett Carson fans. Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word. Sweet the rain's new fall, limlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of those garden, sprung in greenness, where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the Eden's soft play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
Good morning. Welcome to the Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm the Reverend Leslie Takahashi, and my pronouns are she and her. It is really good to be together on this hard week in the world, and to be in each other's company, and to be together with people who care about the family of humanity. So we're really glad that you have chosen to be with us today. And it is also a very special service. It is the service that we have each year when I offer a sermon topic to the Bid for Love. And I always think of it kind of like a sermon challenge, and it's one of the services I look forward to the most. And we are so grateful to Melissa Allen for being the winning bid today for our Bid for Love sermon topic. So thank you to Melissa for the inspiration. For those of you visiting us today, welcome. If you're returning after a long absence, we're really glad that you're here. We hope you'll come in and find somebody that looks familiar for you to be here. We're glad you've chosen to spend part of your week here with us in the sanctuary, online or outside, where I know we have at least 2 canine companions keeping us honest. We would love for you, if you're visiting, to sign a visitor's card, either online or at our table after the service. And we also will have our virtual coffee hour, which for now is still down at the brick patio. We will also have an online coffee hour for 15 minutes following the service as well. I want to mention that this is the week that we have our Vespers and Wednesday night community dinners and classes, so that's this Wednesday. Please sign up, especially if you're coming to the dinner. You all know how it is when you're cooking for people. It's just helpful to know how many people are going to show up for dinner. So we'd love to have you. We'd rather have you not signed up than not, but if you can sign up, it's really helpful. I want to also mention that next week we have a very special guest coming, Matt Meyer, who is a nationally known UU musician who does a lot with percussion, will be leading a workshop with us here in the morning on song leading for justice, and it will just be a joyous time to sing together and also to create music and rhythm together. So I hope that you will sign up for that as well. That's next Saturday. And as you were walking in, if you walked in through the gallery, you might have noticed that we have an art installation up today, and it was put up this week by John Hopper, so please thank John for that. And it is dedicated to Dee Simmons, who for so many years ran our art program. So a lot going on. Please check out our calendar, and welcome to this beloved community.
Good morning. My name is Kevin Shea. I'm a member of your Board of Trustees, and my pronouns are he, him, and his. Welcome to the service. Mount Diablo Unitarian Universalist Church is a welcoming church faith community. We begin our services by reading our mission together. We bring to life our Unitarian Universalist values as we seek truth and work for justice, nurture compassion and courage, reach out to each other into our larger community of faith, bridge the divisions that wound the human family, transform ourselves and our world. This community exists because of the time, talent, and treasure that our members and friends share. Please check out the just-in-time section of our weekly email and our newsletter, and the just-in-time board in the Borton Hall to connect and contribute. The best way to learn more about us is to sign a visitor's card online or at our umbrella table, and to sign up to receive our This Week at MDUC emails that come on Fridays. While we are no longer requiring masks, our expectation is that those who are inside are symptom-free, especially as our area is experiencing more COVID cases right now. Today, after services, here in the sanctuary and online, we are having our monthly congregational forum. Much is happening, so please stay to hear about our many critical developments and an exciting announcement. Funny, this Tuesday is the Taste of Walnut Creek, and we have a few tickets left. This is a great chance to sample foods from Walnut Creek restaurants, meet folks from MDUC, and raise money for progressive congregations in this area. Put a little personal note on this. This is something that I've attended in the past many years ago. I remember attending right after September 11th. It was something that we did and come back, and I haven't been there in many years, and I'm excited to go back finally after a many-year hiatus with my family to be in Walnut Creek, see what it's like, because I haven't really been there in Walnut Creek for a long time. I don't know about you guys all, but it's changed a lot, and we're excited to be there. So, there's a table near the book sale after services where you can get your passes if you've purchased them online, or to pick them up now and purchase them today. And if you cannot attend, consider buying a book which we'll donate to someone who would like to. And now, please join us for a special announcement about Bid for Love. And welcome. It's good to be together.
Hi, my name is Elsie Mills. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm part of a wonderful team at our church here, the auction committee, and we're putting together a lot of fun and bringing in some money, we hope, to support our programs on November 4th. So if you'll want to put that on your calendars, November 4th from 4 to 6 o'clock. A little bit challenging news. We only have half of the donation of items and events that we usually have by this time of our planning. So I have a table out there with previous catalogs that you can have ideas, and you'll see Sally and Peggy during the coffee hour. You can ask them for ideas. So people are giving dinners, they're giving talks, they're giving things off of Zoom. So we have artists who are providing their artwork, so lots of fun things. I'm offering closet organizing. Now, don't be embarrassed, but I can do that really, really well. So hopefully you'll think of some things and come to our event. Thank you.
Can we just thank Elsie and the whole Bid for Love team for all their work? I am confident that now that she's given you the challenge, you will rise to meet it. So, before I ask us to exchange greetings, I do want to mention one other thing, and that is that we are, I want to thank Jana Contreras, who's been serving as our DRE for the day for the last 2 weeks while Marina McGregor has been traveling. And I also want to thank Melissa Allen and Elizabeth Andresen for all of you who have been watching the decline of our plastic trees and wondering why they were having their own autumn. They have now gone to another life, and we are grateful to Melissa and Elizabeth. So with that spirit of being glad to be with each other and for our relationships with each other, let us exchange greetings.
Can you hear me? Bear with me while I figure out a new technology for myself. Hi, I'm Travis. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm glad to be with you here today. So today we're going to have a walking and or movement meditation. And for those who are not walking for this meditation, feel free to practice from your seat or move through the aisle in a way that fits your body best. The invitation is to practice movement that is in rhythm to your breath. So an example could be you could raise your hand while you inhale and then lower it while you exhale. And I welcome the community from the fidget table and those who are young also in young in heart, and who are able and wanting to stand up now. And after the signal to start the meditation, I welcome you, so those who are from the fidget table and young in heart, to kind of make your meditative way towards this area here, because we're going to have you all be over here, again, the younger and the younger at heart, here for the chalice lighting and the time of all ages. But not quite yet. There will be a signal. Sorry, that's complicated. And then it sounds like what my next invitation was going to be for those who want to engage in walking for this meditation to stand up, and you'll do your walking in the aisles. And so for those who are engaging in the walking meditation, it might be something like this. You can, on your inhale, raise your foot, and then on the exhale, set it down. So it could be inhale, exhale, inhale, you can guess. And I have these little sound makers. So I'll ring it like that once to call us into it, and then 3 times to end that. Okay. Thanks for listening to me while I tried to make that as clear as I could. All right. Thank you so much, and I hope the rest of your day you can feel gentleness with yourself. And again, now those from the fidget table and the young and young in heart, please feel welcome to come and gather here.
Good morning. My name is Melissa Allen. My pronouns are she and her, and I stand here this morning with my spouse in spirit, who is outside with our new dog, Pele. And I am reading a poem by Mary Oliver called When I Am Among the Trees. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locust, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give off such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me, and daily. I am so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. "It's simple," they say, "and you too have come into this world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine."
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ives. My pronouns are he and him, and I'd love to share with you a journey I took in Big Trees Calaveras State Park. So I went to a park in the Sierra Nevada mountains, 2.5 hours away, because they had, you guessed it, big trees. And I like to go on walks in parks. Where do people like to go walking here? Yeah. The Iron Horse Trail. Yes, a bike path going 20 miles through towns, yes. In the forest. Lovely, yes. And how do you feel when you are in the forest? Happy? What? Happy because you can explore. Perfect segue. I am an explorer. I love to go to different parks and see what is there and feel what is there. So I went to Big Trees Calaveras State Park, and I like to go hiking. Hiking is just a fancy word for walking where you can pee. I went to the North Grove the first day to see the big trees. And there were a few big trees there. And there was one big tree that was called the Discovery Tree, because in the 1850s, a man saw this tree for the first time, and it was so big, he went back to town and he told tall tales about the tree. And then people came, and 15 men cut it down over 22 days. The biggest tree in the area. Do you think they were holding the seventh principle, the interdependent web of life of which we are a part? Do you think they were respecting that web of life? No, they were not. So now you can see the stump of the tree, which is the size of this dais, and it is huge, a huge stump of what used to be a tree thousands of years old. And the trees there are so big. They're the size of skyscrapers, 250 feet tall. So big. And I felt like an ant among those giants, those ancient giants. And I, like amongst the dinosaurs, yes, they were as tall as dinosaurs, and I walked through a tree stump. It was a hollow tunnel. You could walk through a tree. That's how big the trees were. And the second day, we went to the South Grove, where there are so many big trees, the most northern of the giant sequoias. And we're so lucky in California. We have the biggest trees in the world here, also the tallest trees in the world, hundreds of feet tall. And we went to one tree that was so big and heavy, it weighed like 100 elephants stacked on top of each other. And there was a bench there, and a lady was honored by the bench, and it had a quote from John Muir that said, "In the flowering glade of the big trees, my peace I give unto you," from 1876. And these benches honored people that in the 50s, they respected and loved these trees so much that they bought the land that it was on so we could protect the South Grove from people cutting it down. And I think we can learn from these big trees. We can respect these giant ancient creatures. So to live 1,000 years, you have to have patience. And they had their own form of motion. They were very, just like our conscious walking, they were very slow to grow. And they also were strong and resilient. They were able to survive wildfires, and it scorched the bottom of their black hollow trunks. And they're still living, still. And they need other animals to survive and reproduce. They need squirrels, they're called chickarees, and they need beetles, and they need wildfires. And say again, why would they need wildfires? Yeah, so the seeds, their cones, which are as the biggest trees in the world, they have tiny, tiny cones as small as a ball or an egg. And those cones stay on the tree for up to 20 years until just the right time when a fire can come through and open up the seeds. And they need fire to reproduce, so it's actually a healthy way. So I learned all these things by walking, and walking is such a great way to see the most beautiful places in the world. And you can do it straight from your home. If you can't walk, you can also go online or look at pictures, like the pictures of the artwork, the beautiful watercolor artwork in the gallery. So where do you want to walk now? Where do you want to go walking? Yes. The big trees. Yes, under the big trees. Where else do you want to go walking? Anywhere, if you could go anywhere. It's a long walk. Well, the best places I've been to are a long walk away, where cars can't go. So I hope all of you will, in your lives, go to the most beautiful places through the power of walking. So now I'd like to sing our children to their classes. Thank you.
Hello folks, my name is Peter Morse. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm a gay male. I'm in Bend, Oregon, where, as you may have just seen, autumn is peaking. Today I'm going to talk a bit about woodland areas, particularly those found in California, but also found throughout the West. And being somewhat of a worshiper of nature, why I find these woodlands to be such a spiritual place to spend time in. So, towering over fern-carpeted forest floors or broadly extending outward and upward upon drier forest topography are California's two types of redwoods, often referred to as the coast redwood or further inland the giant sequoia. Given the upward nature of both trees, they appear to grow so high that they pierce the sunny blue skies or disappear swirling in coastal fog. Gazing upon such immensity and towering heights is transcendent, as most anyone who has gazed upon these giants can attest. However, for me, there are other woodland areas that also grow in California that, given their stature, scale, or age, I find awe-inspiring. Thus, my ode to other California forests. The first is the Ponderosa Forest, and that happens to be an orange bark Ponderosa pine tree right behind me. So earlier in the month, I found myself camping in the multi-aged Ponderosa Forest. These trees grow in park-like groves, thriving on warm slopes, their long needles carpeting the ground and thus limiting undergrowth, easily identifiable by their warm orange bark, which is comprised of jigsaw puzzle pieces. These trees form multi-sized columns in fire-healthy forests. One marvelous attribute of these trees is most easily found on warm days when the fragrance of butterscotch or vanilla, depending on your nose, emanates from the dark orange fissures between the bark shields. It's like being in one's favorite kitchen while waiting for the butterscotch brownies to bake. The second, rolling over the foothills of the Basin and Range province of eastern California, is the pinyon juniper woodland. It rests like a loosely woven blanket on the landscape. These trees, through their root systems, limit undergrowth so as to directly absorb the infrequent rain or snow that falls in this drier forest landscape. The pine cones of the pinyon, of course, provide the pine nut. But when harvested for firewood, pinyon and juniper have a particularly tangy pine scent that speaks to me of campfire memories in high desert campgrounds, or when it is wafting from chimneys that the drifting smoke reminds me of those transcendental mountain towns like Taos, New Mexico, or Sedona, Arizona. The third, higher up in elevation, much higher and above the pinyon juniper woodland, is the much more limited bristlecone pine. It thrives amongst the never-ending adversity of sculpting winds, infrequent but violent thunderstorms, and freezing winter days. These trees are of human size, but their timeline is more akin to geologic scale. The limited rain or snow and the nutrient-poor soils means bristlecones grow incredibly slow and in contorted and graceful shapes. The wood is so dense that when a tree dies, it doesn't so much as decay, it erodes. Indeed, some of these bristlecone pine trees, were already 2,000 years old when the fabled birth of Christ occurred. Being amongst these trees is at times unbelieving and at times immensely humbling. With the gratitude that there is such a wondrous landscape of pine trees in California, come, let us worship together.
Number 21 in your hymnal, or look at the words that are on the screen, for the beauty of the earth. For the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the sky. of all to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the wonder of each hour of the day and of the night, for the hill and tree and flower, sun and moon and stars of light, source of all to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise. For the joy of human care, sister, brother, parent, child, for the kinship we all share, for all gentle thoughts and mild, source of all to thee we raise this our hymn of grateful praise.
During our offertory each week, we carry the flame of our chalice to light 2 candles, one for peace and the other to hold those most affected by war and violence. In a year when war has raged across the globe and we have been gripped by the loss of life in Ukraine and Russia, when we have grappled with an epidemic of mass shootings, reminding ourselves of this commitment has been important and essential. Last week, the brutal Hamas attacks in Israel and the retaliatory attacks in Gaza rent our hearts with thousands dead who were alive and thriving only a little more than a week ago. Many of them civilians, women, and children. So we're going to take a moment of silence now. And then I'm going to ask Travis to bring the flame down from our chalice as we rededicate these candles. I want to share with you these words from the Prayer of the Mothers by Rabbi Tamar Elad Applebaum and Sheikha Abtissam Mohammed. God of life, who heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds, may it be your will to hear the prayer of mothers, for you did not create us to kill one another, nor to live in fear, anger, or hatred in your world, but rather you have created us so that we can grant permission to one another to sanctify the name of life, your name of peace in this world. For these things I weep, my eye runs down with water. Our children are crying at night, for parents holding their children with despair and darkness in their hearts, for a gate that is closing and the question of who will open it while day has not yet dawned. And with my tears and prayers, and with the tears of all who deeply feel the pain of these difficult days, I raise my hands to you. Have mercy on us. Hear our voice that we shall not despair, that we shall see life in each other, that we shall have mercy for each other, that we shall have pity on each other, that we shall hope for each other, that we shall write our lives in the book of life. And this is the time in our service when we take into the heart of this community those joys and sorrows that are too great to hold alone. I'm asking Travis to light a candle on behalf of Susie Simons. Susie writes, "My beloved and treasured grandson Zach was 24 years old. He had maintained his recovery from drug use for years, but last Tuesday he relapsed. And after ingesting a drug he didn't know was laced with fentanyl, he died. Susie and her son Johnny hope that by openly sharing with our congregation the circumstances of Zach's tragic death, that perhaps another life might be saved. And I ask that you send cards to Susie, her son Johnny, and Kenyon, Zach's brother, to Susie's house, but refrain from calls as they are obviously grappling with a deep loss and shock. Thank you. Tom Taylor is lighting a candle this morning. He writes, "A blessing to my ex-wife Deborah, who is declining from frontal temporal deterioration, and this is also affecting my daughter, who is suffering as well." Thank you, Tom. And Mariana Tubman asks from our stream that we light a candle of joy for good connection with her brother Peter, who is in good spirits despite health concerns. And I ask Travis to light another candle to hold those joys and sorrows that remain in our embrace, though they are not expressed in words. And a final candle for our one deeply grieving planet. May we see its promise spring again.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
I am, as I said, deeply grateful to Melissa and Elizabeth for this topic. And I think this particular week I am particularly grateful, for it is a time when we need to reimagine our connections with the world around us. So we are going to have the gift of seeing some of the photographs that Melissa takes in her interactions with the natural world around her. And as we do, I'm going to share some of the reading from the article by Francis Sanzaro called "The Next Walk You Take Could Change Your Life," which was the inspiration for today's sermon. Study after study has proved what we feel intuitively in our gut. Walking is good for us. Beneficial for our joints and muscles, astute at relieving tension, reducing anxiety and overwhelm, a boon to creativity, likely slows the aging process maybe, excellent at prying our screens from our faces definitely. Shane O'Mara, a professor of experimental brain research in Dublin, has called walking a superpower, claiming that walking and only walking unlocks specific parts of our brains, places that bequeath happiness and health. We are asking what we can get out of a walk, often rather than what a walk can get out of us. This may seem like a small distinction, a matter of semantics, but when we begin to think of walking in terms of the latter, we change the way we navigate and experience, literally and figuratively, the world around us. I have no beef with any of this, but I believe we have it backwards. We are asking what we can get out of a walk rather than what a walk can get out of us. When I read that line, I'll be honest, I don't get it. That line from the work of Barry Lopez that says that our relationships with nature needs to be in intimacy. What does intimacy have to do with it? And what does walking have to do with intimacy? I'm a climber, a skier, a trail runner, but each time I went out, I felt oddly disconnected to those very same places I pined after. I sought them feverishly, yet when I arrived, I felt like a foreigner, a squatter even, never at home or at peace. The mountains had lost their joy for me. In truth, I was lonely and a bit desperate. I started walking around my neighborhood more. Compared with these wild places, this was unremarkable. Pacing down a sidewalk of 10-year-old maples, across cracked squares of pavement, alongside a ditch bursting with spring runoff. But I turned it into a practice of sensation. I listened. I felt. And in a remarkable way, the neighborhood came alive in a way that those mountain tops or that wildflower-strewn rivulet in the valley below never had. My senses, once atrophied, came to life, and with them, so did the world around me. My experience, which took me from the rugged wild to a tamer, humbler landscape just outside my front door, went against the grain of a few hundred years of traditional nature writing, but so be it. My strolls in my neighborhood taught me that journeying is truly a discipline and an art. The discipline of removing assumption, thinking that something is going to be beautiful, does as much damage to a place as thinking it will be ugly. Instead, we need the art of attention. Assumption is a knot of a word, meaning both an act of taking on, such as a new job or taking control. It also means you believe something to be such. I assumed that was the case. When you give the word assumption a kick, the shell cracks and you can see the yoke of possession, of ownership, responsibility, taking on, anticipation, judgment.
What are we for? There must be more than meets the eye. Though I might try, I can't quite figure it out. 'Cause if we are stardust, if we are golden, but we're kept from the garden by holding on, can we live as one in this sacred dirt and cultivate a garden here on earth? How can I be something that's free from mortal ties? 'Cause while I'm alive, my spirit moves with me. 'Cause if we are stardust, if we are golden, but we're kept from the garden by holding on, can't we dig as one in this sacred dirt and cultivate a garden here on earth? Through the mist of this mystery, could it be I'm not supposed to know? Just sit back and watch our garden grow. 'Cause if we are stardust, if we are golden, but we're kept from the garden by holding on, can't we dig as one in this sacred dirt and cultivate a garden here on earth? We're gonna cultivate our garden here on earth.
Good morning. My name is Jana Contreras. I'm a member of your Board of Trustees, and I use she, her pronouns. As members and friends of the MDUUC community, we generously share our time, our energy, our creativity, our wisdom, our skills, and our talents. And of course, this community also depends on our shared financial support. That support makes real our shared values and our vision. Please join me now in giving so that we may sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. I invite you to go to our website, mduuc.org, and click the Give Now button, or you can place your offering in the basket as the ushers come forward. The ushers will now receive our offerings. Now please join me in the dedication of our offering. The words will be on the screen. To the work of this community in transforming ourselves and our world, we dedicate ourselves and our offerings.
In my 20s, I had a transfixing moment in Glacier National Park. My partner at the time was a professional photographer and had gone off to capture images. And I was walking on a path not very far away from the lodge, not anywhere spectacular, not anywhere hard to get to, when I stopped to rest on a rock. It was a temperate day, not hot. The rock beneath me felt pleasant and warm. And then I looked up and I realized that I was eye to eye with a pika. And we just sat there, me and the small rodent who trilled at me some chirps in a language I didn't quite understand. But we continued to keep company for quite a long time, eyes locked. I wasn't, as I said, on some far path or hard stretch. I was just on the regular path that went down to the lodge. But this moment was deeply conversational, and I've remembered it all my life. We looked at each other, and it was as if we were sharing the stories of our lives. "What are you doing here?" she was asking me. "What kind of animal are you?" When Melissa texted me a link to the article from which I read from during our reflection, to the accompaniment of her beautiful photographs, she mentioned that she and her beloved, Elisabeth Andresen, had been talking about it over breakfast and thought it would make an excellent sermon, and I read it and I completely agreed. How fortunate we were that in their infinite generosity of time, money, and attention, Elisabeth and Melissa chose to bid on our Bid for Love sermon last year, and so here we are. I want to go back to just a few of Francis Cesaro's words. "I'm a climber, skier, trail runner, but each time I went out, I felt oddly disconnected from those very same places I pined after. I sought them feverishly, yet when I arrived, I felt like a foreigner, a squatter even, never at peace. The mountains had lost their joy. In truth, I was lonely and a bit desperate." Melissa, we found out in our conversation in preparing for this sermon, has a morning walking practice, as do I. And Elisabeth is a procurer of many outdoor sports involving mountains. Now, at first, I was really focused on the part where it commended the title of this article, sort of as walking as life. And yes, there's a lot of health benefits, including spiritual health, to walking. As I kept reading it over and over the last months and weeks, I realized that the real point, though, really was the issue about how we are in relationship with the nature that we engage with and how we might learn a different concept of relationship. The New York Times opinion piece from which I read was inspired by author Barry Lopez, who before his death in 2022 wrote an essay called A Literature of Place, which went viral, in which he wrote, "Over time, I have come to think of these three qualities: paying intimate attention, a storied relationship to a place rather than a solely sensory awareness of it, and living in some sort of ethical unity with a place as fundamental human defense against loneliness. If you are intimate with a place whose history you're familiar with, and you establish an ethical conversation with it, the implication that follows is this: the place knows you're there. It feels you. You will not be forgotten, cut off, abandoned. Many here know how you come to love a place, to know it like you might know a lover, the curves of the land, the shapes of the trees, the positions from which the stars can be observed at different seasons of the year. How we travel through places determines our contact. Geologist and author John McPhee has written, "Travel, for example, by canoe is not a necessity and will never more be the most efficient way to go from one region to another, or even from one lake to another anywhere. Yet a canoe trip has become simply a rite of oneness with certain terrain, a diversion off the field, an art performed not because it is a necessity, but because there is a conversation in the art itself. These ideas about ways that we perceive new synergy in our relationships with the natural world may be more vital than we think, a source of wisdom we need. As the world of human creation has become more difficult, more anguished, more demanding, many of us are seeking relationships beyond the human-to-human discourse that is often still so life-affirming and nurturing. As we gather here in a sanctuary and the extension through our online gathering, we're part of a faith community, and of course the earliest ideas of reverence and worship had to do with the natural world, about which people were struggling to understand, and animals as well, as events like the solar eclipse we had yesterday proved, because we were on campus, some of us, and what we noticed is that none of the animals, who are almost always present these days, were around. It was as if they were trying to puzzle out what they could figure out about what was happening yesterday, as the sunlight was different. If the world has taught us nothing in this searing 2020, it's that we're living in a brutal imbalance where personal wants are crushing our chances for collective survival. Barry Lopez, who was famous for his writings about wild and very exotic places, in his later years expressed regrets about the ways his writings about the Arctic and other areas increased global travel to those places. For, as he noted, travel is now a major contributor to climate decimation. He wondered and researched what it was we are ordering overnight with such volume, using global transportation systems that have been so expanded with the expectation of everything coming the next day. In a PBS interview that was just a year or so before his death, he mourned that his research found that it was more likely that what was being overnighted wasn't medicine or something vital. More often it was things like golf balls, or as he said, just junk. Morning walks through one's neighborhood environment might begin that gentle tipping of the scales. Starhawk, an author and community leader known for her work on pagan and feminist practices, now teaches permaculture practices to put people back in regenerative relationship with the earth. I find it's really helpful, she says, to have a practice that takes me out of my head and puts me into my body. It's about opening up, watching, looking, and listening. Francis Cesaro says that our concept of our relationship with nature needs to be reimagined. He notes that it's increasingly about acquisition and reward and conquering, and I think that was so illustrated by Ives' story about the cutting down of the giant tree. For example, if I go for a walk in nature, is it because I'm there to get something out of it, better health, as opposed to the way in which we have coffee with a friend or take care of each other in times of need? A walk for my health at some level, he is suggesting, is transactional, whereas coffee is a relationship with mutuality. And that is the kind of relationship more and more people are saying we need with a wider and wider expanse of life. Cesara's reflection is that he sought experiences to conquer nature initially, which he saw as what centuries of nature writing had taught him to do. To repeat his words, I was neither attentive nor meeting the wild on its own terms. I was merely trying to prize something from the wild for my own benefit, which means I wasn't seeing the wild at all. Lopez notes that this attitude is grounded in the colonial frames of conquering nature to put its resources into markets for profits. For those of us who believe in our deepest beliefs, which are grounded in the inevitability of human progress, these have been difficult years. Many of us are still waiting for that clear path to open, to see where we can reverse the course that seems to be taking our nation and now in our world down places that we think we know we do not want to go. Those who have looked to the wisdom of the earth, people like Starhawk, are saying it is going to be through our conversations with the natural world, our stories and our imagining, our honoring of relationships that are already here. Because we are already interdependent with the natural world, even if we need to deepen in our understanding of that. Our relationship with nature isn't like our relationship with our new couch or some other widget. It's something that's deep and interactive, as Melissa experiences when she travels among the flowers and plants of her neighborhood in early morning rambling. And our relationships with other parts of the human family as well need to recognize that interdependence as well. The world in which we are in requires grounding in many ways. If we are not grounded, we will find ourselves overwhelmed by anxiety and fear. Perhaps it is important to ground ourselves on the very ground of the earth to do so. How? Barry Lopez suggests this: be silent, leave home the bird book, the analytic state of mind, any compulsion to identify, and just sit still. Concentrate instead on feeling a place, on deliberately using the sense of proprioception. Where is this volume of space in which you are situated? Listen, use your ears to hear the acoustic hemisphere you occupy. What sort of air is it moving, the bird song? Open a vertical line to the place by joining the color and form of the sky to what you see on the ground. We have choices before us, and they all depend on how we see our connections to one another in the largest sense, including those that we consider to be the natural world, of which we are a part. We need to understand that not all of us need to take the same course of action. Tomorrow, some of us need to witness to the pain of those among us who are directly affected by the events of this week, whose loved ones have been irreparably touched by shocking violence. Others of us need to call our president and remind him that war does not end our responsibility to humanitarian standards. Others of us may just need to take a morning walk through our neighborhood and look at the flowers and begin that shift of attitude so that we can remember that all life requires and deserves deep reverence. Perhaps the additional wisdom found in dialogues with trees and flowers, animals and stars will keep us grounded enough to remember that we need to remain engaged with each other, with the flowers, the birds, the trees, the stars, and with other human beings. Perhaps this will change our hearts. Starhawk observed recently that we used to say that peace in the world would start in our own heart, and now she says, part of how we make peace within ourselves is to just try to make it in the world. As we shift our concepts away to understand how much we need everything alive, may it start with a simple journey or hearing another's pain. Perhaps in that frame, a new, uniting, healing story emerges. So may it be.
Sometimes walking is swimming. We we start this song with the chorus, which when it comes around again, you will already know it because you've already heard it. Come on. I'm stalling. And I hope that you'll sing along with us. We are living neath the great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live together. We're all swimming to the other side.
Your body is good.
I am alone and I am searching, hungering for answers in my time. I am balanced on the brink of wisdom. I'm impatient to receive a sign. I move forward, no imperfection. I'm doing it right now. 'Cause we're all swimming to the other side. And here you go. We are living with the Big Dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live forever. We're all swimming to the other side. On this journey through thoughts and feelings, building intuition, my head, my heart. I am gathering the tools together. I'm preparing to do my part. All of those who have come before me, band together and be my guide. Loving lessons that I will follow. We're all swimming to the other side. When we get there, we'll discover all of the gifts we've been given to share. Have been with us since life's beginning. Never noticed that they were there. We can balance at the brink of wisdom, never recognizing that we've arrived. Loving spirits will live together. We're all swimming to the other side. We are living in this great big dipper. We are washed by the very same rain. We are swimming in the stream together, some in power and some in pain. We can worship this ground we walk on, cherishing the beings that we live beside. Loving spirits will live together. We're all swimming to the other side. Loving spirits will live together. We're all swimming to the other side.
Well, it's stuck. The following words come from Barry Lopez. We keep each other alive with our stories. We need to share them as much as we need to share food. We also require for our health the presence of good companions. One of the most extraordinary things about the land is that it knows this. And it compels language from some of us that as a community, we may converse about this or that place and speak of the need. May we extinguish the chalice today and go forth holding the importance of sharing our language and stories with each other, and also the importance of sharing the care in our hearts.